a your sight, in a jar sight. In a God's eye, me want live right. Walk where you want me to walk. Talk where you want me to talk.
Hello.
Hi guys.
Good afternoon. Good evening, everybody.
Afternoon.
How is everybody? How are you guys doing? Good, Candace. What's it in?
Alright guys, so this is our thing, how you guys doing, and I legit was waiting to hear a response. I forget.
Because I know that's I was like,
Yeah.
Candace, what's it in?
I like waiting to hear how people going. Alright guys, so as we mentioned on Thursday, when we had a little chit chat, that today is our first official live, our first official episodes, and we are dealing with a serious topic today, mental health. Mental health is something that we don't often hear in the church forum. We don't often hear it discussed in youth groups. My knowledge about it basically came out of being a psychology major at USC, so that's where I got my background from. But we know that the Bible speaks about health in the good book of John, the famous verse that we all know, I wish above all things that you prosper and be in health even as your soul prospers. So we know that God cares about our health. We know that our health is important to him. But normally when you hear the scripture first, we think about physical health, Mateela. We think about cancer, we think about diabetes, we think about high blood pressure, we think about endometriosis, all kind of diseases we think about, and we fail to think about our mental health, our mental state, our state of mind. And our health is precious to us. You know, the phrase says, your health is your wealth. Your health is something that God treasures, that we all treasure. Without a good bill of health, you are on the road to death. And that's something that we all do not desire to be as. So our ability to prosper, our ability to function is highly dependent on us having a good health. We cannot function if we are sick. We cannot be having this life if we are bedridden. You know, we need to be in good spirits. So before we jump in to our guest, we have our guest who we did say is going to be on the scene today. Before we jump in to that, we're going to talk about ourselves and experiences we would have had with mental health, experiences we would have had with not being good mentally and seeing its effects on our body physically. And I've been talking a lot. I have a little bit of dry tongue. So I'm going to hand over to Mateela. So Mateela, tell us, you gave us a small little preview on Thursday about you not being in a good state at a point in time of your life. So the
Yeah.
floor is yours.
All right.
Let's
So,
go.
I don't want to take too long either. So generally before I start, like after the live last week, I came off and I was like, I wonder if I oversell my situation as a people go and expect like this week I go and hear Mateela say like, something was real serious, like she had the biggest tobacco ever or whatever. It's might be not. But that's a good starting point because we have to be cognizant of the fact that what might be a big load to one person may not be a big load to another person.
Yeah.
So we have to be very conscious of the fact that we all have different struggles, we all have different weaknesses, and our ability to carry different loads vary. And that's why the Bible tells you that he gives unto each person that which they could handle, right? And no more. So generally my low points and my experiences would have begun after I'll say just after, because I would have been in the UK for school and I would have finished with a great run in school. School was great. And then just before coming home, one by one, I spoke about like God doing a lot of things in a lot of different compartments and different areas of my life. So one by one, a lot of things started to happen. The first thing that would have happened is that around July 20, so my time period would be from like about August 2018 to December 2019. I had a difficult year and a little bit, right? So the first thing that would have happened after my great run at school would have been a relationship, a long-term relationship that I was in would have ended, right? It would not have ended because of any bad behavior on either party's part, but just, I would say, some differences in understanding how things was supposed to run, right? So that's the first thing that would have happened. So that breakup would have happened, but I would have done a little bit of traveling and stuff before I came home. So it wasn't really to the forefront of my mind, right?
Understand.
So then I came back home to Trinidad, and a few days after coming back, I was called out to work, right?
Okay.
But the problem is with being called out to work is that it was like probably like 5 days after coming back, right? I hadn't received my stuff from the UK yet, so it was like a mad scamper to get stuff to be able to go to work and stuff. And I was starting my working in the same place that I was before I left,
Right.
but in a whole new different role with a lot more responsibility, with
Right.
a lot greater expectations on my part. The workload was a lot. It was a big adjustment going from being an assistant to being a full-fledged attorney at law, right? Doing the work of an attorney or whatever. And work was very, very demanding. I was working at work. I was bringing home work in the evening. I was getting up early to work before I go to work, right? And after about a month or so, that situation kind of leveled up for me because I would have lost all my stuff that I would have shipped home,
Wow.
right? So all my personal belongings,
Right.
all my legal textbooks,
Hmm.
all my notes, all the clothes I would have bought for when I started working, shoes, whatever, everything was lost, right? The shipping company couldn't find it. And that was difficult for me. People might be like, oh, it's just some things. But when you understand the costs involved with legal textbooks, the costs involved, I would have lost a lot economically. And then there was a lot of stress because
Right.
the shipping company didn't know where the stuff was. They couldn't find it. Then every day is like, yeah, we think it here, we think it over there. And then that translated into them not wanting to compensate me at all. Right? So I was dealing with the stress of work, the stress of that. No adult wants to really rely on their parents to give them money to go to work, money to buy shoes, money to buy clothes. You know, that was an issue. And what also happened was in coming back as well, being in this space where the relationship would have operated before and settling down into life, things became apparent, right? And the associated feelings with the breakup began to come to the fore. Disappointment, a little bit of anger and resentment inside there towards myself and towards this person, right? On top of that, coming back home, my mother and I couldn't get things right at all, right? At all, because I was under a lot of stress, right? Mentally, physically. And my mother is a woman that's on 100 all the time. She's very engaging. She likes to chit chat. She likes to lie, whatever. And I was just very short. My fuse was short. Everything was short at the point in time because I couldn't understand a lot of what was happening. And then certain feelings of discontentment. I started to feel very discontented with my life as it was. I began to feel like I was unfulfilled, like I wasn't doing anything that was purposeful. I wasn't doing anything in life that was meaningful. Although I was doing well at work, I was just feeling a very empty, kind of devoid way inside. Like, yes, things have been okay in my life, but like I just feeling like I'm wasting time every single day. So I started to pray for purpose. And if you ever pray for purpose, that could be a very challenging thing. I started to pray for purpose, and God started to tell me about things that I will do, and nothing God was saying was matching anything I was doing at the time. Nothing God was saying was matching anything I intended to do at the time. So there was a lot of confusion with that as well. And then I started to have some vivid dreams and stuff, disturbing dreams as well that I couldn't understand. So there's a lot of different things that was happening at a stage. And I realized that my mind was always racing. There was never a break in my mind. There was always something in my mind. I was struggling to sleep. I couldn't sleep when the night was come because my mind was running. I had migraines every day. Migraines became a basic part of everyday life for me. And then I realized I had like zero drive, zero zeal to do anything. So I'd be in work, I'll have work to do, I'll want to do the work, and I just can't do it. There were days when I was actually feeling physically ill because everything was just too much. And it's not that I have no outlet, because I have very good friends and stuff that I could trust, but even my parents are people that I could go to about anything. But when you have a state of confusion in your mind and you can't figure it out, it's very difficult to even reach out to somebody as well. So, I mean, it doesn't sound, even in hindsight, to me, it doesn't sound like a lot that should get somebody down and under. But at the moment and in the time, it was a low that I don't think I'd ever want to experience, really. Frustration, and it was a lot. So, and I sure forget something that I noted down on the paper, but I'll pass over to you. Candace, give us a description of your first time.
Um, well, for me, I mentioned a little piece of it on Thursday as well. I went through a phase where I lost a lot of persons to death between 2010 and 2017, 2018. About eight to nine persons, family members, and their friends, they just died. um, some two in a year, some one in a year, and it took a toll on me. That is something that most people experience in their old age. You know, you hear probably a more mature person speaking about experiencing their colleagues or their friends dying because age. But you randomly hear somebody my age, 25, 26, 27. That was my age in the point of time. Losing such a large amount of persons, and not only mature persons, my friends, they were my age. And that kind of plunged me into a very dark place. Um, Mental health, where that is concerned, I needed to take drugs to fall asleep. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep. I'll be up throughout the night and function in the day like normal. I was just scared I'll function like normal, but I couldn't sleep until I started to take gravel and Tuscaloosa and all kind of things just to fall asleep. And this
Oh,
became
I
my
know.
routine. Yeah, this became my routine because I couldn't on my own. And not because I couldn't sleep, but because I needed my mind to stop. I needed my mind to shut down. And that's the only way it could have happened. Because even if you're lying and you're trying to sleep, your mind spins and goes and goes and goes. And I couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle the places my mind was going. And I felt like if I couldn't control it, yes,
Mhm.
you have God and yes, you're crying out to God, but there comes a point in time where you just need help. And that's the point where I reached. And eventually with counsel and I'm just opening up, seeing how I feel and seeing what's going on. Eventually I found my way there. But for me, when I'm in a bad place, um like you, gosh, this thing, let's call it, this life thing, calling it to be open. Like you, I was in a relationship as well. I'm no longer in a relationship, not long term like what you described, but it takes a toll on you as a person, as an individual, and you find yourself on your mind, the mind. It's like a battlefield, a war zone, and that's the state where I have been, and to be honest, where I'm currently
Yeah.
and moving forward. And I don't want to take too much of time talking about our stories. I want to hand over to you right now to bringing the expert herself. So let her share her experiences and guide us in how we can deal with these things. Because I'm sure persons listening saying, yes, Candace, I know. Yeah, Mateela, you're talking to me right there.
Yes,
So
yes.
let's bring her in.
Just before bringing it down, I want to ask you, during your
Uh,
experience, did you ever question yourself and ask yourself, like, Candace, I wonder if, everything okay with you? I
yeah.
wonder.
What I find myself doing, I haven't aced it yet or gotten over it yet. But to be very honest, what I find myself doing is questioning my strength,
Right.
questioning my ability to handle different situations, even with the death situation, and even now, things that I may experience. I say, Candace, are you weak?
Yeah.
Why can't you function in the midst of this? People function, people are going through worse. I tell myself, I say, Candace,
Yeah.
people are
Yeah.
going through this and they are doing
That
fine. Just keep them
comparison, that
together.
comparison is something else.
Yeah, I do that, to be
Yeah.
honest with you, I do that often. And then I tell myself, I was talking to my sister about it, and she said, Candace, what is strength? She said, the mere fact that you overcame it, or that you did something, or you stood up for something you believed in, or you walked away from something, or the mere fact that you were able to understand that that is something you cannot control, that's a form of strength right
Yeah.
there. So I
Yeah.
think it's how we see strength and but I question myself, and it's something I'm honestly working on, and I'm trusting God day by
Yeah.
day to help me with that. That's an excellent question.
Yeah. Because I found myself in the middle of it wondering, I was like, well, Tila, I wonder if you're depressed.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I wonder if I'm depressed. I tell myself, no, girl, you can't be depressed because depression is a problem. Depression means you're sick or something now, right? So on that note, I had no knowledge of mental health versus mental illness, and I still don't. So I'm about to learn today. So we want to bring in Miss Tynika James, mental health advocate and wellness coach. She's known to me very, very well. She's known to us all. Hello.
Hi, hi, Mateela.
Welcome, welcome.
Candace, come my expert. I feel like, oh gosh, I have real pressure on my back now. But I want to make a disclaimer, though, to the persons listening, that I am not a psychiatrist, right? So I want to make sure I make that disclaimer, right? I am coming with the experience of 7 years as a social worker, and as well as my own personal experiences with mental health. Mateela, I feel like I'll cut you. Like you were going to say something before.
No. I listen. I all ears right now. All I doing from now on is listening, unless I have a question.
So there are some persons who are listening and would be familiar with my story. I know you and Candace would have shared your experiences with mental health. So I don't want to stay too long because that story is a very long story. But in reflection, I recognize that I would have struggled with mental health even as a child and as a teenager, right? Having thoughts of self-harm, right? Depression, right? I used to sleep a lot. I didn't even know I used to sleep a lot. I used to experience a lot of anxiety, right? Which is something that a lot of people experience, right? That point when I really knew something was wrong was about 7 years ago. I was going into my final semester at UE, and I experienced something called a manic episode. So a manic episode is basically something where you have a elevated mood, extremely elevated mood, right? To the point where I wasn't sleeping at all. I was having hallucinations, erratic behavior, right? So I would have had to go to the Arima Medical Facility on two occasions where they wanted to transfer me to the St. Anne's Psychiatric Hospital. That didn't happen, right? Because I was nursed back to health by my family members. So as you know, my mom is on this, right? And her other friends. And I was diagnosed too by a private psychiatrist with bipolar disorder. So my experience, even at that point, has been a long years of struggling and working through even the new reality of having a mental health diagnosis, right? A mental illness. And that's it in a nutshell. I know you all will ask questions. I don't want to spend too much time on that particular.
Where's Candace? Okay. So I was supposed to, right? So I'll just do it. Right. So with that being said, for the viewers that are looking in, Tynika is going to go through 3 segments with us. It will be mental health versus mental illness, kind of address the distinction between the two, signs of poor mental health, and then ways in which we could coping and wellness, right? So over to Tynika again. So we start with mental health versus mental illness. I would like...
Right, so I have my notes here just that I don't forget, right? But basically mental health has to do with our cognitive, behavioral, right, and emotional well-being. And basically all that means, it has to do with how we think, how we behave, and how we feel. So all human beings have a mental health, just as though we have a physical health, because we all think, we all behave, and we all feel. Right? When it is we're talking mental illness, we are talking about a wide range of mental disorders, right? That affect the way that you think, the way that you behave, and the way that you feel, right? So that is the distinction there between mental health. So you have mental health, and then you have mental health disorder. One of the best ways I think that I could describe this, if it is you think of a line, like a continuum, where on the minor side you would have mental illness. And then as you come to 0, 2 would be mental illness. And then as you go up, you will have probably poor mental health. And then from poor mental health, you might have good mental health. And then you might have a peak of great mental health. So that's kind of like the best way to describe mental health versus mental illness. Right? Some of the signs in terms of mental illness, persons, they will be in a lot of distress, right? They won't be able to function properly. So when it says I experienced my manic episode, there was no way I could have functioned at all. So I had to take time off from my study in my degree at UE, right? And that's my nephew, sorry. Right? I had to take time off from UE. Right, and I spent a lot of time recuperating because I couldn't function. I couldn't even read. I wasn't allowed to read. I wasn't allowed to work. I wasn't allowed to watch television. So I was really at a very, very, very low point, right? So I don't know if you understand that whole concept of mental health, as in we all have a mental health, but then you have mental illness, which is the disorder of your mental health.
So I think I get it. I run in a parallel with physicality. So
right,
if I have physical health, it means I am well. I have no illnesses in my body. I'm able to walk, run, read, whatever. Or everything is operating as it ought to. But then if I get a diagnosis of diabetes, then I have an illness. So
right, exactly.
It's a part of my mind. So I have mental health and I have good mental health. And then something might happen that might cause me to feel a certain way or whatever. And I might have a diagnosis. And at that point, then I'll have a mental illness. So mental health is something that everybody has.
Right.
And it's when something happens that you will go into the realm of a mental illness.
Yeah. So like mental illness can be caused by various different things. So one of the things is that you can't have a family history of mental illness the same way you could have a family history of diabetes or high blood pressure, right? It could also be caused by trauma, right, or abuse, right? So there are many different things that could cause somebody to end up mentally ill. Right.
So I know when we were having our little pre-discussion, we had a little chat about trauma, because generally when we hear trauma, we tend to think of like very, very major, like life-changing per se. But you were telling me that is not necessarily like that. So if you could just...
So trauma is like what? Trauma is a disturbing or a very stressful situation that may have happened to you, right? And it kind of sometimes changes the way that the brain functions. So if it is you have extreme trauma, of course, you know, so like when you have like soldiers who go to war, right, and they end up with PTSD, right, post-traumatic stress disorder, is because the traumatic experience of being in war and seeing persons get killed and having, so that's what trauma is. So trauma is like a very stressful situation that you would have experienced.
Right. But to a regular individual, though, but everybody's a regular individual. But
right, you mean in terms of
on a smaller scale,
what are some of the
something very simple for one side.
So trauma can be the separation of a parents. Poverty could also be something that is traumatic for a child, right? Not knowing where your next meal is coming from. That is a very stressful situation. Right? Trauma could be being bullied in school, right? Or being bullied by persons in the environment. Abuse is also traumatic. It's also a traumatic experience.
So trauma, so from person to person, trauma would look different.
Right, it would look different based on the experience, yes.
Right.
So that would also, so we went through the causes and just some signs. So I'll just talk about some signs of like, well, that's kind of going into the next segment. So I don't know if you're ready. Go ahead. So in terms of signs, right? So I want to say that not because I cause some of these things means that you have poor mental health, right? So it has to be something that is very persistent, right? So in terms of feeling anxious or worried. So it is, we all experience anxiety and we all worry about things. But if it is you find yourself persistently worried, anxious day in, day out, then you know that there's a sign that something is happening.
And I think that's very important, because like in my case, that's when I began to wonder, because again, as I was saying to them in the last episode, I am somebody, I kind of put pressure on myself thinking that I'm weak, right, when something bothering me. But I think it's important for us to understand that it is a natural human feeling to be bothered, to be sad, and to be fearful and stuff at times. But I guess, as you put it rightly, there is the persistent feelings or the persistent invasion of these feelings that will make you have to have some cause
Yeah,
for.
anything that disables your ability to function, then you know. So if it is you're fine because you're worrying and stressing so much, you're staying home from work, or you're not going to school, or you're hiding from persons. Hi, Candace.
She just right back in there like
And she just thought she'd have just sit down and be quiet. Hi, Candace.
Hi guys.
All right. So, right. So it's saying that. So once it starts to disable the ability to function, then it is right, that something is wrong, right? So you have that. So you have feeling depressed or unhappy, right? Depression is a feeling, as in we can feel depressed, right? But if it is you find that you have this persistent feeling, right? As I said before, I'm not a psychiatrist, right? But I just want to say that in order to be diagnosed with like clinical depression, right, you have to have certain criteria over a certain period of time. So like a 2-week period, you're supposed to, if it is you display like 5 symptoms, certain symptoms, then a psychiatrist can diagnose you with depression.
okay.
Right? So we can feel depressed, but as I said, if it's a persistent feeling over a period of time, then it is, okay, that is a sign of a mental health issue or challenge that you're having, right? Emotional outbursts. And a lot of times, people won't even realize or recognize that that is a mental health, a sign of poor mental health, right? I remember somebody messaged me sometimes, like, Tynika, I find like I really get angry and I snap at my friends all the time, like, I think I may have bipolar disorder, right? And so I had to be like, okay, kind of talk you through, because sometimes we just assume just because we experience one symptom. And then on the other spectrum is we don't even realize that having angry outbursts or emotional outbursts consistently could be a sign of poor mental health, right? Irritability, being very irritable all the time, is also a sign of poor mental health, right? You all discussed, like Candace spoke about sleep problems, right? That has been one of my major challenges over the years, and as the precursor to my diagnosis, as I said, I wasn't sleeping at all. I reached the point that I wasn't sleeping at all, right? Weight or appetite change, right? So you might have a changes in your appetite. You might find yourself eating too much, or you might find yourself eating too little, right? So that's another sign. And then we have quiet or withdrawn, right? It can be very quiet or withdrawn. You find yourself not wanting to interact with people. You have no zeal to interact with anybody. Substance abuse is also one, right? You find yourself heavily dependent on alcohol or cigarettes, right? Or any other drug, over-the-counter drugs, that's also a sign. So I think that we're drugged a bit. I don't want to go through too much to saturate people's minds, right? But those are just some general signs of poor mental health.
Okay. So like of all the list of things that you just called, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was like what, 8? 6?
Yeah, about 1, 2, 3, 4.
All right. I probably, if I reflect on what I would have just shared beforehand, I could say probably I would have experienced about 4.
4, right.
Or 3 or 4, maybe 4 or 5 of those during that period. So
right.
It means then I would have had, well, now I know for sure, but at that time, not knowing, you're just like having all these experiences. Now you know that would have been, a time of poor mental health. And obviously, if you recognize that you're having a period of poor mental health, then it means that you need to do something, like some sort of action needs to be taken, as opposed to just what I did, just rock back and just wallow and just allow it to fester, and So when somebody recognizes, okay, cool, she talk about irritability and agitation, as I tell you, my mother and I, that was definitely. And in hindsight, I know it would have been my fault because I was just short. So a number of other things that you call. So what was Mateela supposed to do at that time?
All right. So as I said, right, there are some persons, they might go through a period of poor mental health and the storm passes and they are okay, right? But as I said, there are some people who might be predisposed to mental illness. So I think that for persons who are listening, and well, for Mateela too, I think
No, I really was asking generally, just using
right.
as an example. Yeah.
So the first step is to take action and get help, right? Whether it is you speak to somebody, a psychological professional, sorry, right? Whether it is a psychiatrist, some churches have counselors. They may have persons who are trained in counseling, right? Who may be able to help you through and identify what the process is. So the first thing I would say is to get help, right? A lot of people resist getting help because I think which we will get into, there's a lot of shame when it comes to asking for help. I remember I was listening to the live from last week and Candace was talking about, and she mentioned it earlier too, in terms of, feeling that you need to be strong all the time. And so we have this big issue with asking for help, which was a struggle for me as well. So the first thing I would say is to ask for help, right? Then where you develop a strong social support network, right? Which is very important. When we look at in terms of building resiliency, so we get into resiliency and coping skills, right? Resiliency is the ability to bounce back quickly from difficult situations. So we spoke about trauma and traumatic experiences, right? We all go through stressful situations, but how do we bounce back from it, right? And building a social network is really important, right? Having people, surrounding yourself with people who you can go to and that you could ask for help, right? Again, asking for help, right? Being able to reach out. And I think one of the challenges with persons who experience mental health challenges, that ability to ask for help and that ability to say, I need help is really important, right? But that doesn't make you weak, right? As for me, like in my experience, I would have worked with at least 3 counselors or psychologists within the years that after I was diagnosed. 3, I would have attended support groups. I was desperate to overcome my challenges and to become the best version of myself. So I had to surround myself with people, even if it meant pain and going to get counseling, I would have done it. Right. The next thing is in terms of building your coping skills is nurturing yourself. I'm sure everybody can agree that we are our greatest critics.
Yeah.
Like we are we are like really hard on ourselves all the time. So like we make one mistake or again a relationship ends or something happen and you feel like I'm not supposed to be crying over this. Like why am I crying? Why am I, am I weak? And I felt as somebody who felt weak, who struggled with that for a very long time, feeling like I'm very weak for having things affect me. Um, that whole thing about self-talk and nurturing yourself is really important, right? And then of course we will go into, because for me in terms of exercise, um, and diet and stuff is really important, right? So you nurture yourself with the things that you eat, right? Because the things that you eat have a significance in how you feel, right? We have fields for the outer why like nutrition and psychiatry and psychology and stuff that really focus on the diet and how it affects our moods and behaviors, right? So we're looking at nurturing yourself physically, having the right foods, exercising, right? For somebody who has experience and still struggle with anxiety, right? Exercise is a really, really important aspect of my self care, right? Spiritually, nurturing yourself spiritually, right? That connection with God is the most important thing for me, right? Having that connection with God, taking your burdens to God, like even anything that I have to do, making sure to spend time praying, worship is an important thing for me too. So, when I'm going through my difficult situations, I have a line of songs that that I would always listen to, and be encouraged. So I think I touched on the spiritual part, the physical part, and the whole aspect of being able to ask for help and seeking counseling from persons who are professionals, right?
One thing you said, I just want to go back on. You said that with the mental illness, the recovery period
Mhm.
is going to be the same for everyone.
No.
I feel like that's you were alluding to. So somebody may recover from something within probably a month.
Right.
Then for me, it might take me 6 months. Does that mean that something is wrong with me?
No, it doesn't mean that. It means that now, firstly, when we spoke about trauma before,
Right.
right? Persons may experience different traumatic effects. So my trauma would be different from your trauma,
Right.
right? So the effects of it would be much deeper and
Mm-hmm.
more impactful than probably what I would have gone through, right?
Right.
It doesn't mean because you are taking a longer time to recover, it means that something is wrong. It just means that and then too, when you talk about mental, like even with mental illness, there are different extremities of a mental illness. Somebody might have a mild mental illness so that they might still be able to function, and then have persons who can't function at all, who may stay on disability for the rest of their lives. So it all depends on all the different factors I spoke about in terms of family history, brain chemistry, and all those different things.
Right, yeah. So I wanted to just touch on one thing that you'd have mentioned, because you would have spoken about how sometimes it's very difficult for people to reach out to ask for help. And you
Right,
said it might be because of the fear of the stigma as well. But I wanted
right,
to touch a little bit on the fact that it might be related to stigma in some sense, but the fact that sometimes people might feel that they can't trust somebody to say what is really going on with them, right?
right.
And I mean, it happens outside of church, it happens within Christian circles as well. You just feel like you can't trust somebody with your baggage, right? So as somebody who would have had this experience, what do you look for if you're trying to gauge whether you could trust somebody with your the details of what you're going through? What do you look for? Like you look for, like how would you identify that somebody is somebody that you feel like you could go to?
Yeah, that the trust, that is a very difficult thing, especially for persons who already experience disappointments, traumatic events, etc. Like trusting somebody is really hard to do. I think it takes a lot more than just identifying one thing, but one, you can ask God for guidance. That's the first
Yeah.
thing. Ask God for guidance in terms of who do I trust and how can I trust this person with my personal information, right? You can look at, I mean, the person, we have our intuition and we have discernment, right? In terms of even their interactions with other persons. Is this a person that you hear speaking other person's business? If it is you know that this person was talking about other people, then you know definitely you can't trust them, with your information, right? If it is you look and this person's life as well is probably falling apart. They do have a history of good morals or good behaviors. There's another person that you wouldn't trust. To tell your behavior. So it all comes down to us being able to discern character, right? And asking for God's guidance, right? What I can say though is that you can also speak to somebody that you may not know personally. So, like for example, we have like Lifeline. We have different places that you can call. Which I have done before. I have called Lifeline probably 2 or 3 times over the past few years, and I spoke to people that I don't know what they look like. I don't know what they don't have my personal information. I was just able to talk about it, and that was it. So if it is you feel as though there are persons within your family or your community that you can't really trust, probably at this moment, maybe you can look at going to somebody outside, whether it's a psychologist, a psychiatrist, somebody that doesn't really know you personally. Anastasia.
Right, right. And I find it easier to talk to a stranger. I think it's easier to talk to somebody who doesn't know your history, doesn't know what family
Right.
is from, a judge-free
It's
environment.
because they can't judge you.
Yeah, a judge-free environment. So I most times when I want to get a real good vent or express myself, you go to
Right.
somebody who will not judge any talk.
Yeah.
Those are the
And if
best.
you go to a professional, one of the things, like in one of the principles like with social work is non-judgmentality. So you're supposed to be in a safe space where you can speak about your experiences and not be judged, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff.
Yeah, boy. Techie. Now is the time where we like to take some questions from you guys. And questions that was asked last week that we have to ask Tynika about, and also some other pre-submitted questions that we had before. Um,
While we're waiting for the questions to come up, Tanika, did you find the process frustrating? Like you know what you need to, you know the problem, you know
All
what you
right.
need to do, but did you find yourself being impatient with yourself, saying, "Oh gosh, Tanika,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah,
how was
I have been, there are moments that I have been really impatient with myself. And the thing about it, and it's good that you ask that question because growth and healing and transformation is a lifelong process. And
right?"
sometimes we want results now, like we feel like, no, I supposed to have things down pat now. Like not supposed to be still struggling with low self-esteem or low self-worth. But remember, like I always tell people, especially if you have experienced things over extended period of time, particularly in your childhood, that would have take years of being exposed to certain things. So then it's going to take another how much ever years to undo certain things that or certain behaviors and mindsets that you would have developed. So it is sometimes we can be very impatient with ourselves, and that's when it goes back to in terms of having self compassion and nurturing yourself. You know, like Mateela and I, we would have spoken before about the whole concept of that inner child. Like I tell her, like think about you as an adult and you have this little child inside of you that is hurting, that is broken, etc. How are you going to nurture that child into the person that you want him or her to be? You have to practice compassion, you have to be patient, you have to talk to them all the time, affirm them all the time. And that's what you have to do basically with yourself. Just you have that inner child in you that is indeed a feeling and you just have to be patient. It's hard, but you have to be patient. So I saw some questions had come up, but I think they disappeared.
well, I guess again, while we're waiting for the questions, right? One thing is now sometimes I see friends and stuff on social media expressing that they're going through a difficult time or difficult period. Some who will even be saying things like they're contemplating leaving this life or whatever. And I kind of freeze up because I don't know what to say and what not to say or how much to say, whether to say, not to say, send a like emoji, a heart emoji. I don't really know how to gauge what would be too much to push them over or what.
All
So
right.
is there any guidance at all? Like how to engage somebody who might be struggling? Do you just say something like, I am here if you need me, if you need to talk? Or do
Well,
you go forward and say, I see, so, like, I don't know. If you
I think the first thing is to really actively listen to them. Sometimes you always feel as though we need to have the solutions to other people's problems. We may not always have the solution, but I think just listening to them and letting them know that they are heard, they are
yeah.
understood, and like somebody is there, and practicing empathy. You may not necessarily be able to know exactly what they're going through, but you can say, based on what you say, I understand how you feel, I understand how that could be frustrating, I understand how that could be painful. And as you say, I'm here to talk whenever you want to. So they know that they have that avenue or that medium where they could come and express themselves openly.
Okay.
So I think I saw a question. What is your position in the case where an individual or the parent whose child is diagnosed with mental illness, in the case of a Christian, as it pertains to faith versus medicine? I'm trying to understand, but I think he's asking in terms of what is my position when it comes to faith over medicine when dealing with mental illness,
Yeah.
right? What I would say to that is that, as we mentioned, the same way we take medications for physical ailments is the same way medication can be helpful when dealing with mental illnesses,
Right.
right? I have depended on medication for the past 7 to 8 years, right? We have had a love-hate relationship, not because that whole thing about faith, but the whole issue of wanting to be strong on your own and feeling like, oh gosh, I have to depend on taking this medication. That has kind of been the battle, but I have recognized that it has been my saving grace on many occasions, right? And so I think that while it is we are still trusting God for healing, right, and we are still working on our physical and our emotional well-being, especially in the beginning if you're newly diagnosed, I think that you should follow the directions of your healthcare practitioner and take your medication.
Yeah.
It's important to note also that God gives us as men wisdom. So the
Right,
doctors, healthcare practitioners, God is the one that would have gifted them with the ability to understand the mind and what's going on. Right
right.
now, I will not say there are some people, their conviction is, or they hear from the Lord, and what they get is that they should not take their medication. And I'm not talking about mental health alone, and they
Yeah, in
don't
general.
experience healing and all these different things, right? And then there are some people you need to practice wisdom and take your prescription as you ought to. So what you decide to do in that situation is different on a case by case business, but at all times you have to make sure that you talk to the Lord and that
Wisdom in all things.
Yeah, and you consult with them as well because there are times when I would have come off my medication. So like now I'm not on medication like consistently because of the whole stay home. So I'm home and I'm in a more relaxed environment. I don't have these stresses of work as it's not as demanding because I'm working from home, right? I have taken it sometimes in between, as I told you, if it is my anxiety level is really high, etc., I will take it. So you consult with them as well. If it is you feel as though you're at a point where you want to try coming off of it, you try. And if it is you feel as though you need to go back on it, you go back on, you know. So it's really about having that open dialogue about it. And as I say, as you continue to trust God, you you still do what you need to do.
Yeah.
Any more
Are we
questions?
taking questions from FB Mateela?
I'm I'm in a situation right now and I'm praying, but I don't feel any better, and the situation is not changing. Any suggestions for me? Okay, and I'll see no better. Right. So the person mentioned in terms of praying, right? And I think we would have touched on this earlier in terms of yes, prayer is really important and prayer helps. But in terms of it is in a situation and things are changing, you try to get support from other persons, right? Persons outside of your situation who could support you. I don't know what the situation is. Persons that can support you, but it's really physically. Maybe you might need a change in environment. Maybe you might need counseling, whatever it is. So that would be my suggestion there, that they get help.
and also you take active mentioned before. Like while you continue to pray, while you're praying, you exercise, you eat well,
Yeah,
you
right.
focus and stuff like that. So you just take active steps as well.
After steps, yeah. It's not very always easy, especially because you're really in a low point, and that is why surrounding yourself with people who will encourage you and probably even come to your house and get you off your bed and say, hey, let's go for a walk. Sometimes you really need to reach to that point.
Yeah. I think she answered this question already. All right. One of the biggest hurdles of persons trying to manage or navigate certain situations is reaching out. What are some of the things that passes through someone's mind that will prevent them from reaching out? I think you
Right.
addressed this before. I don't know if you have anything else to add.
Well, here we could get into the whole issue of stigma, right? And that whole stigma associated with seeking help for mental health challenges. So for some persons, they may feel, because I know persons who they don't want to speak to anybody because they think that they quote unquote mad, right? Like how you always say, you feel as though something is wrong with you. So that whole issue of stigma, right? And stigma is when people see you in a negative light because of your mental health. So it's because you speak to mental health because stigma applies to HIV and AIDS and all those different things. So people see it in a negative light because of that. So we have public stigma, that is where the opinions of the wider public, and then we have self stigma where we then internalize these negative opinions and we start to see ourselves the way other people would see us. So we hesitate seeking help because of those things. So those are some of the things that might pass through somebody's mind that may prevent them from reaching out to get help.
That what you said there, Tynika, is so true. Oftentimes, persons will say she mad or she crazy or she tripping, careful, she trip off her
Yeah.
nose. Or
But they say she bipolar. Everybody bipolar.
Hmm.
If you know someone who has mental
Mental
illness,
illness, should you suggest that they get deliverance?
right? So now we're talking about in terms of like spiritual aspect, right? In my experience, and knowledge, I would say that we know that spiritually, different spirits could be manifested based on certain experiences that we go through, right? And they can develop what we call strongholds, right? So that if it is you went through a lot of disappointments, a lot of hurt or whatever, you carry around those spirits with you over an extended period of time. So I think that deliverance is important. As I said before, prayer is important because you kind of help the person to release. There are a lot of people walking around with a lot of resentment and hate and unforgiveness, and all of those things affect our mental health. So I think that spiritual part is really important in terms of getting deliverance from those things.
You answered the question really well, Tynika.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. But I think you just have to be very sensitive in the way you will suggest deliverance to the person.
Yeah. And we don't I don't want to forget as we have said before that it's a holistic approach. So yes,
Correct.
while you're praying for this person to be delivered, right? Because I have had people who have told me that before because I work with young people who experience suicidal ideation, etc. And I remember a parent telling me, I know where's the problem, right? I know where's the problem, right? So he needs to be delivered, right? And then I had to tell him the child has also gone through so much, right? So yes, there's the spiritual aspect, right? But also emotionally and stuff like that, he needs to be attended to. So yes, he might be praying to release whatever strongholds and whatever things he's holding on to, but emotionally and physically, he's a human being, right? So remember, it's always a holistic approach.
Yeah,
Yep.
very well said.
How can one encourage someone personally who is depressed or in a dark or difficult place to talk it out or seek professional help?
That is really like challenging, as I said, especially if it is somebody is in a really dark place, you tend to be very resistant to help. And I think that it can be frustrating, for persons who are their friends and you've been talking to them over a period of time. But I would say it's just still continue to show up for them, right? Until they reach a point, because especially when you're dealing with an adult, most times if it is you setting an appointment for somebody, for a psychologist, etc. Once the person is an adult, they have to call and make the appointment themselves. So it's not like you can make an appointment on their behalf.
Yeah.
So just really to talk to them and even I think empathizing and maybe sharing your own, like what we're doing here now, sharing your own experiences kind of helps them to realize that they are not alone, and then maybe really they might be more inclined to speaking about it. But if they're not, all I could say is just continue to support them, show up for them, take them out, even if it is you take them for a walk, to exercise, whatever it is, just continue to be there and support them for as long as possible.
Okay, sometimes you go to spiritual leaders and they give you the typical pray and fast. How do you deal with that?
All right, so so that's Mateela, you know, for me is a interesting question because it still goes back to the whole thing about being um, having a holistic approach to dealing with
That's
your
it.
issues, right? I think that, as I spoke before, in terms of finding a supportive network, sometimes it doesn't necessarily have to be in church, right? Because Mateela, you and I would have spoken personally, and I told you that now I do not go to church regularly, right? I told you I think that I believe that in terms of my whole healing process, that I had to experience my relationship with God and heal and stuff outside of the church, the institution, right? Because I think that some, as we would have discussed, some churches, it can be toxic for persons who are trying to find that healing, that emotional and psychological healing. And when it's if you have persons telling you, pray and fast, and it kind of comes back to you feeling like you're not doing what you're supposed to do, when really and truly you really need to get some psychological support, something outside of just praying. So I think that if it is you are experiencing that, as I said before, you can reach out to persons, professionals outside of the church. Nothing is wrong with that. You don't have to if it is you feel as a particular leader or somebody that you feel as though you can't speak to, because we have different personalities and everybody deals with things differently. So it is you can't find somebody outside of that setting to speak to, I would say do that.
I just want to jump in for like a quick on this question, because listening to the question and listening to your response, I think if we be very honest, we could probably classify, we could bring up the term church hurt, right?
Right.
And for some people, they may be in such a position where they go to the church for help, right?
Right.
The church, the institution, and church the people in the church, right? And then you experience some form of church hurt, right?
Right.
But a lot of the times, we go to the church and we experience church. I'm not making an excuse, but we also have to remember that people in the church are human beings as well.
Right.
People in the church have the same hurts.
Yeah, so everybody is different. Yeah, everybody is different.
So, for one man, praying and fasting might do for him. So the man that will tell you pray and fast might be his way of managing, and that may be all that he knows.
Yeah.
So I think, as we would have been discussing throughout, right? Yes, we as the church could do better, but at the same time, at least today, we have knowledge to know that we have an active part to play as well. So
Yes.
if you experience, if the advice that you're getting might be just pray and fast, it is a legit advice, as we would have discussed, pray and fast. But you now know, and you now equipped with the tools to know, well, okay, in addition to praying and fasting, I need to do X, I need to do Y, I need to, and be able to keep on, you figure it out, you work it out, and you head back. And you help to, you share what you learned, and you, okay, next question. What do you do?
Mateela, before you jump in to that next question, I just want to ride on your points coming out of the last question. I would also like to say that's why we have the forums like this, for persons to be educated, for persons to know exactly how to treat with, what to treat with. And the reality is there's a stigma attached to my battery's going to die. I'm just going to change my position. Bear with me, guys. Okay, sorry about that. So the reality is that there is a stigma attached with it, and the reality is that some persons' response may not be the ideal one, or the one that you would have expected, or the one that Tynika would have shared today. But as you said, persons speak out of their experience, and any advice that somebody would have given to you. So the person says, "See, pray and fast," is because legit prayer and fast works.
I don't know.
and reality is, in the church, that's a key tool that is used to conquer different things that we go through. So I would say, as you said, that's the right at point, that there is a very high place and a vital role in which those things play, but they have to go alongside with the practicality of stuff that Tynika would have shared this evening. Just wanted to drive that point in. Okay, you can go ahead.
All right, so the next question is, what do you say to someone who believes that a Christian should not be depressed?
All right. Well, I think that kind of ties back into the question before, in terms of, or what we would have discussed before, in terms of people's belief about, in terms of Christianity, that you think even like you would have discussed that you need to always have it together, you need to always be strong. But as you said, we are human beings, right? So depression is a feeling. And I
Yeah.
know Tila, you would have we'd have discussed in terms of different scriptures, because the Bible talk about the garments of praise for the spirit of heaviness. What is the spirit of heaviness? And the fact that the Bible speaks about that, then that people do experience heavy feelings, right? So saying that Christians should not experience depression is saying that we are not human and we are not prone to having feelings, you know?
That's exactly what my response was going to be, and immediately things started to go in my mind like pew 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 pew. Because honestly, to say because you're Christian, you're not going to be depressed, that is to say to us that we are perfect, right? And none of us are perfect. And I'm even thinking Jesus was under some stress in Gethsemane, where he
Exactly.
asked, Lord, take this cup from me. He was under stress till he almost sweat blood.
Yeah.
What was that? That is, if you don't want to call it depression, that is a different level. All the pressure I think I under, I never sweat nothing but water and salt yet.
Yeah.
Right.
Understand? So to say that we shouldn't feel depressed, I don't think I could agree with that statement at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nationwide.
You touched on PTSD earlier on. Would you say that due to our crime rates, we have highly traumatized population and more needs to be done on a larger scale when it comes to mental health on a whole?
So that's Kern Thomas. That is my friend. Hi, Kern. Can
I
you
can.
come back on the question? Because that question very long. You touched on
Can we read it again,
we
please?
have a highly traumatized population and more needs to be done on a larger scale when it comes to mental health and all. Yes, definitely. Crime is traumatic for a lot of people. For persons who would have even been robbed, like even if you weren't there, you come back and you see your glass in your car smashed up, your things missing. That's a traumatic experience. So and when it is you look at even more severe crimes like murder and actual robbery where you're held at gunpoint, we have a lot of traumatized people. We have a lot of traumatized young people and a lot of traumatized children because we know our murder rate affects families, it affects children. Of course, in my job, we work with a lot of children who would have been traumatized by crime, right? And so, on a whole, the whole conversations about mental health and mental health support needs to continue, in terms of those traumatic experiences that persons continually go through because every year we have how many murders per year. So imagine the ripple effect of that trauma from crime.
And even to add on to Kuhn's thing, he's onto something because even as somebody who hasn't necessarily been affected by crime, um, first hand, second hand, third hand, I've been very honest. Straight up reading the newspaper, watching the news is
Mm-hmm.
depressing a lot of the
It's traumatic,
time.
exactly.
I kind of stay away from reading certain types of articles and all these kinds of things
Yeah,
because
you have to guard your mind because so even like now during this period, this COVID period, I intentionally do not tune in to the news stations and stuff very often because it's traumatic and can do something to you when you're constantly bombarded with all this negative news all the time. And the newspapers, they sensationalize
yeah.
everything. So at the front page is always who is murdered. And so you really have to guard your mind where that's concerned. So thanks, Kim.
Nice question.
Two
There's so
beautiful,
many questions from
educated young ladies that I know recently committed suicide. I think this question is coming out of Thursday's chit chat. This was very difficult for me. Please suggest how I can deal with this.
Okay. So in terms of that, you're looking at, well, firstly, grief and loss in terms of losing somebody that is close to you, right? So I would suggest that if it is a person feels as though it's disturbing in terms of the ability to function and they feel as though they're not sleeping properly and they have constant thoughts about, I don't know if it's guilt, I don't know in terms of if the person feels guilty that they probably didn't reach out to these individuals or they wasn't there for them. I would suggest that they speak to somebody about it, a professional about it. So even a friend, be open, always open about conversations about your feelings, right? Suicide is a very touchy topic, right? Because it leaves a lot of questions as to why especially when persons don't say why it is they would have killed themselves, it could really affect us. And so we always have to be able to talk about it. And if it is you feel as though you're not dealing with it properly, then you seek help, you get some help.
Can you recommend any psychologists or counselors?
Right. So I actually, before we came on, I was trying to, because I had told Kwesi he could have put up like the number for Lifeline and stuff. So we have a number of, in terms of, I don't want to feel as though I am advertising for anybody. So I would just say, right, in terms of public and free access, we know we have like National Family Services, we have Families in Action, right? We have a lot of different places that we can access free counseling, right? And you could always, they're always, I mean, everybody now in terms of Facebook, you see a lot of stuff that pops up in terms of mental health. So there are a number of places that you can Google and look, because I don't want to call out any place specifically.
On that question, though, Nikki, is there like true probably like the Ministry of Health or something? Would there be like a register of counselors or public register of counselors or something like that?
You can get it all. Like you have the Trinidad and Tobago Association of Psychologists. Like if it is you go on their Facebook page, or even if it is you Google it, you will get a list of different psychologists, right? What I should say too is that some people might try counseling, or they might feel as though it didn't work for them. And just as how we were speaking in terms of everybody is different, like the question in terms of like the church leader giving you certain advice. It's the same way with counselors. You have to find somebody that works for you and that suits you. So some persons specialize in different things. Some persons, based on their personality, you might feel as though you click with them, or you might feel as though you don't. So don't give up on counseling because you feel as though you didn't have a good experience with. It's the same thing like with a doctor. You might find a doctor that you really like that doctor, and that doctor works for you, and then you might find somebody else that you don't like at all. Right? So it's the same way with psychologists. You keep trying until you get somebody that matches you well.
Yeah, good stuff, man. Very, very relevant.
Tony.
I mean, that's my father. Hi, Daddy. As he got on, I was trying to guide him as to how to get on.
Nice, man.
About the comments and thing, yes.
Very, very refreshing to see young people discussing age-long problems in a passionate manner. Yeah, it's necessary. Very, very necessary. I like the way you use the scripture to answer the questions. Well done. Thank you, Pearl.
Thanks, guys.
Techie, are there any more questions? I guess not. I guess we'll see here, right? So, no more questions for now. But what Candace and I did, just as a little roundup, is we went through some scripture and we recognized that God is concerned about our mental health. God is very, very concerned about our mental health. And we know this because throughout the scriptures are littered with scripture speaking specifically to mental health, depression, anxiety, fear, and all these things. So we went through the scriptures and we kind of came up with a biblical blueprint to good mental health. So we came up with 5 points, and we'll just Tynika, if at any time you want to add something,
yeah, sure, no problem.
You can drop them in. So I see we have 2 more questions. Probably after let's take the 2 questions now before we start the blueprint.
What form of justice should be applied to a mentally unstable criminal?
Right. So that's a question. Afia, Edwards. Afia. I think that is a question outside of my time, because you're looking now at in terms of the judicial part of thing. But I know that there are some persons, if it is like they are sent for like a psychological evaluation, it may have an impact on their sentence. They may be sentenced to the psychiatric hospital for extensive period of time. So it all depends on, in terms of if it is a psychological evaluation is done. But I can't really speak to what justice, because there's a lot of different dynamics at play. I
If
think
I just if I just run in real quick, um, generally speaking, a lot of crimes
yeah.
a mental
Yeah,
segment,
definitely.
mental
Yeah.
element in it, right? So when somebody is diagnosed as having some sort of mental illness, most times their guilt for a particular crime or the crime they charge of will change or will be reduced or will be
Right.
modified.
Depend on
And sentencing will also reflect um, their state. So it might be admission to a psychiatric hospital.
right.
I believe we have any like psych prison here. I'm not a criminal lawyer.
And
So
I don't think we have any.
a psych, like a penitentiary for mentally unstable people. But I know it is taken into account in
Yeah,
sentencing.
because we have some persons who will plead insanity.
Yeah.
If
And
there's a murder, etc.
defense,
But I can't speak to what justice I think should be meted out to those persons.
yeah.
So the last question is, how do I go about handling peer pressure when in a social group? So, in terms of peer pressure, I think that one of the things you really have to work on is having a clear definition of who we are and what we are about, right? So that we are not easily influenced by the persons around us, especially if it's negative behaviors. And it goes back to, again, surrounding yourself with a strong network of persons who have a positive impact on you. So I would say that if you're in a social media group and you feel as though you're being influenced to go down the wrong road, right? And maybe a Christian and maybe the content of the conversations or whatever it is they're having is something that you do feel as though you should be involved in, then I would say leave, right? And find persons who can uplift you, right? And as I said, have a clear sense of self in terms of who you are in God, and how do you function in the world, right? So in terms of peer pressure, knowing yourself.
Yeah.
Stuff. Right. So we'll just run into our clock. I mean, our time is fast spent, but I think it was spent very well.
Yeah.
So we'll jump into the biblical blueprint that we were able to put together from scripture that guide us as to how we could secure good mental health. So it's 5 points, and Candace will start.
Okay, so the first point, you said pray with thanksgiving and expectation, remembering that He is near. And we spoke about this sometime during the conversation that God is present, God is seeing, God is hearing. Philippians 4, the famous, listen to me. Y'all need to read Philippians 4 on a reel. Like,
Definitely.
had an eye opener when you was doing this. It's like Philippians 4, you all need to really soak it in. And it's a popular verse, do not be anxious for anything, but in
Yeah.
everything with prayer and thanksgiving, give your request unto God. And God answers. It might not be in the time frame as we're discussing. Sometimes you wonder, okay, this person got over it in 3 months, this person got over it in 6 months. I'm still here. Keep on praying. Remain steadfast and pray knowing that your God hears. Pray knowing
Right.
that your God sees and He's a God who empathizes and who knows, and He will come to your rescue. So that's
Right.
our first point. Pray with thanksgiving and expectation, remembering that your God is near. Number 2, Tila.
Right. One part of number one, though, is that in that scripture, there's actually a promise attached to it that when you do that, the peace of God that transcends all understanding
Right,
and will be given to you.
right,
And to me, that's a very important assurance. Remember
right,
how
right,
much praying and telling God what you want is, right? So point
right.
two, from Philippians 4 again, down in the vicinity of 4:8, we picked that what you have to do is create positive environments. And Tynika spoke a lot about that. And to me, that includes spaces and faces. So you make sure that your physical environment around you is a positive one as much as you can. I am thinking, be careful what you listen to, be careful what you watch. What you feed your spirit, what you feed your soul is what you're going to put out and is what is going to settle inside of you in your mind. Right? And Philippians 4, it tells you, Focus your minds on whatsoever is true, whatsoever is noble, whatsoever is right, whatsoever is pure, whatsoever is lovely, and whatsoever is admirable. And if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, you focus on those things. Because if you focus on positive, it's going to be very difficult. If you feed yourself with the positive, it's going to be very difficult for negative things to invade your space.
And that question answers perfectly our last question with how she given what's the when you are in a situation with peer pressure and
Yeah.
Tamika's
Right.
advice. You're the way in charge of your spaces, you know?
Yep.
All right. So point number 3. Put into practice what you have seen. Philippians 4:9. Paul admonishes us to put into practice all that we do, all that we have seen. And Mateela and I looked at 3 examples with David. David was a man who was known to be after God's own heart, but he was far from perfect, far, far from perfect. And we realized that in a quick synopsis of David's story, David killed Goliath, David get popular. Basically, he started to do to fight and stuff. Saul got jealous of David, and eventually Saul wanted to kill David. That's it in a nutshell. So what we realized is that David would have found himself having some poor mental health during all of this. And the first thing is that he had a dear friend Jonathan to stand at his side, to encourage him, to let him know that things will be well. And Jonathan was the son of the man who wanted to kill David. And David confided in him. The Bible describes their friendship as being one of the best and one we could pattern after. So point number 1, the Bible really admonishing us to confide in somebody. Confide in somebody, speak out, get somebody you trust and speak your heart. Number 2, in the scripture, we also see that Saul the king, at many points in time, he was tormented by evil spirits. And David was the person or the vessel used to aid Saul. So we see David receiving help from Jonathan, and now he's giving help. So sometimes we have to be, so Mateela, she went through a hard phase and she needed probably Candace-Joy to listen. Now Candace-Joy is going through a hard phase. Mateela is the one now on the other end assisting, and that's what went on with David. At a point in time, he was ministering to Saul. So sometimes we need to understand that yes, we seek help and we need help, but also at times we need to be the ones open to giving help. And number 3, and my favorite point, David encouraged himself in the Lord. Psalms 103, he said, "Bless the Lord, O my soul." He commanded his soul and all that is within me. It doesn't matter what I'm going through. It doesn't matter how I feel. It doesn't matter that all my luggage is in England or India or Pakistan or all in Europe. It doesn't matter that I'm no longer in a relationship. It doesn't matter that these 2 persons who I love died. I have a responsibility to speak to myself and say, Candace-Joy, get it together. Candace-Joy, seek help. Candace-Joy, speak. Candace-Joy, come out of the dark
Exercise,
place.
eat well.
Can you repeat?
I say, Candace, exercise, eat well.
Yeah. You have a responsibility to pull yourself out of there. So those are 3 points that we saw coming out of David. All right.
All right. The fourth one was that we ought to rely on the premises in the word of God, right? God is not a man, he cannot lie. Whatever he says he will do, he will do. So if he said he will give you peace, when you pray, you will get peace. If he said your situation is going to get better, you will get peace. There's a point where he said there's a scripture where they talk about you receiving comfort in your situations, and then you self have to turn around and comfort others based on the comfort you would have gotten from God, right? So the point is, 2 Corinthians tells you, for no matter how many promises God has made, all of them are yes. So when you go to the scriptures and you see what promises deliverance from fear, anxiety, hurt, depression, all these things, all those promises are there and available to you. There's one one addition I wanted to make there, that we must understand that there are general promises in the Bible that is available to all creation. For example, go forth and multiply, right? And then there are other promises in the Bible that are specific to his own, right? That are specific to people who love God and people who make sacrifices and people who respond in a certain way. An example of that would be Psalms 84:11, where he says, "There's nothing good that he will withhold from those who walk uprightly." So some promises are like that, where God requires you to do something in order to access the promise, right? So if I am walking uprightly, there's nothing good that God will hold from me. That means joy is my portion, peace is my portion, and all these things are my portion. So it's important for us to read the scripture and apply it as necessary.
All
Yeah.
right. And the last one, real quick.
You want to say something, Tynika?
No, I just wanted to, well, I don't have to wait until she finished, but I just wanted to, I feel it's important to say this in terms of like how I spoke about not, like I don't currently attend, like I'm not a member of a church. So I don't want persons to feel as though I'm encouraging them to leave church in terms of not go to church. Because remember, everybody have their individual walk with God. And you know, Mateela, and you and I would have spoken about in terms of finding the right place for you in terms of what you are going through, what your needs are, and finding a place that is best for you, right? So I think that's important in terms of, I just wanted to clarify that because I don't want persons to feel as though I'm saying church is not a place that you should be. But I think that is really about finding somewhere that works for you in terms of where you can grow and you have that level of emotional and spiritual support. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying.
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay, and the last point, point number 5, you have to work to maintain your peace. Psalms 34, verse 4 says, and I'm getting it here. Yes, God has promised us peace of mind, but we have our part to play. Search for your peace and maintain it. So peace is a promise. Sheila mentioned it for point 1. She drove in that point that peace is there, peace is available. But God
Right.
doesn't just come and say, oh, you're not in a good state. Look, some peace. It's some peace.
Right.
Fine. It doesn't work so. You have your part to play. And it really comes back to my point where David encouraged himself. Yes, God has given it to you, but at the end of the day, you must work to maintain it.
Yeah.
And those are about 5 points in a nutshell. I feel like if I was giddy up and going really, really fast because I'm very cognizant of the time.
Yeah.
But I hope persons understood those 5 points in which we just shared.
Yeah. We also have some scriptures that we think could be very helpful for anybody that might be needing them because they're in a low season. We will post them after, so you can have a read at your own leisure.
Yeah.
Just to piggyback a bit on what Candace-Joy said, she spoke about in terms of working, and it's just to put in the point there that personal development, spiritual development, all aspects of us requires a level of work that we really have to put in. It's not like, yes, God promised us certain things and we get certain things, but we also have to work for it. So if you find that you're in a place in your life where you feel as though things are not happening, you're not growing spiritually, you're not growing emotionally, it takes, trust me, it is a lot of work and you have to be committed to it.
Committed. I like that word, committed.
Yeah.
All right. Tynika, thank you so much.
No
You
problem.
were excellent. You were really, really excellent. I would have clapped for you, but I'm holding my phone up. You would have seen my phone fell several times.
That is okay.
I'm charging my phone, but Tynika, you were really, really good. I appreciate you coming and being on our live. You went beyond my expectations, to be honest. And oh, look, mommy's commenting. And you answered your questions really, really well. I understood no big, big words. I'm a girl of simple words, if you know me.
Yeah, exactly.
And you did really well. So thanks, Tynika, for
Yeah,
giving
no
us.
problem. Thanks for having me, and thanks for the taking the initiative to have something like this and even having a conversation about mental health, which I think is something that we have to continue conversations about so that the stigma is minimalized and persons can be free to express themselves.
Yeah.
I really appreciate the information. I think I'm better for it now, in understanding myself and also being in a position to assist other people. But before I go, I'm going to probably try to get away a little bit. We have this little mic drop segment that we want to do with our guests, right? So, how the mic drop supposed to work is that you would have addressed a particular topic, and now
that's my Ezra coming just now.
Right. Candace, I will give you an object, a sentence, a phrase, or something, and you just have to drop an inspiration, do a mic drop, telling us something about whatever she say, but make it related to the whole topic of mental health and everything we would have discussed.
Okay, that was
It's better than asking you to extempo.
Okay, yeah, no, I still warming up myself because I don't know what's coming.
Okay. So I'm going to give you a word,
Mm-hmm.
and that word is charger.
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 Will you get out? It have to be related to what we were speaking
Yeah.
about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. I would say that life is stressful. We have a lot of challenges, but God is our charger. Stay charged, stay positive, and He will keep us going.
Ah, that was good. That was good. That was good. That was good. That was good.
Yeah, I would say that.
All right. Thanks so much, Tynika,
Thank you
again.
very
Yeah.
much.
No problem, and y'all take care. Enjoy the rest of the evening.
You too. And
Bye,
go be
Tolly. I
Thank
enjoy.
you very
don't
much.
know who was on, but
Thank you very much for coming, joining us. And you need to say thank you to everybody who tuned in, everybody who listened, everybody who commented. Please, if you all have any other questions or anything to say, you could drop a message via the messenger on Facebook, or you could email us at letschat.wtt@gmail.com. And also you could drop a comment and let us know what you think about the episode, any other questions, any
They
further
can also
suggestions.
message on the FB page.
Yeah, also message on the FB page and just let us know what you all think. Let us know again if you're expecting anything, if you want us to discuss anything in particular, let us know. We are sorry for taking up a whole hour and a half of your Sunday afternoon, but I think I feel good.
Yeah.
Things went well.
thanks to all my friends who tuned in. I can't see who's on because I don't have Facebook open. I know Kane was there. I think I saw some other person. So thank you very much. And it's a wrap, I guess.
It's
Yeah,
a wrap.
I think that's what you all to say. You're all the host.
it's all right.
Nah, it's a wrap. It's a wrap.
Yeah. All right.
See
Bye.
you all next time.